Election results are in, and Donald Trump will be the 47th president. See how KU students are feeling.
I feel like we're just kind of trying to fight each other more than we're trying to work together, and I wish people would be a little bit more united.
And we'll take a look at the issues voters deem most important.
People perceive Republicans to own the issue of the economy.
Later, a new group on campus is creating community for the first-generation college students.
Live from the studio in Stauffer Flint at the University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Welcome to KUJH News. I'm Millie Favela.
And I'm Francesca Onofrio. To start us off this morning, weather forecaster Sam Hansen is here to give us a look at the upcoming forecast. Sam?
Thank you, Francesca. It was a cool fall morning, but now the sun is out and sunny skies all around our viewing area. Here in Lawrence, we're at 54 degrees with wind out of the east-northeast at 8 miles an hour. And as you go through the afternoon, it will largely stay the same. Skies will remain clear. Temperatures will climb to near 60, but probably won't quite reach that, with the wind staying out of the northeast at around 9 miles an hour. Now, taking a look at temperatures for the next 7 days, we're going to be just a couple degrees above average consistently, but compared to the warm September and October we had, I am not complaining one bit. Coming up in a few minutes, I will talk about the upcoming rain chance we have over the weekend, as well as the basketball and football forecasts for the weekend as well. Back to you.
Thanks, Sam. Donald Trump was elected the 47th president of the United States early Wednesday morning, clearing the 270 electoral votes needed to secure the presidency. Just this morning, President Biden addressed the nation, acknowledging Trump's victory and praising Harris's character. He also took this opportunity to reinforce a peaceful transition of power.
We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree.
Trump spoke in a similar vein in his acceptance speech from Mar-a-Lago on Wednesday. Let's take a look.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that.
Also in the speech, the president-elect claimed his campaign was, quote, the greatest political movement of all time, end quote, and said he was grateful to have won the popular vote.
The popular vote is still being tallied as ballots continue to be counted across the country. But if Trump does win the popular vote, he will be the first Republican candidate in nearly 2 decades to do so.
Supporters of Vice President Kamala Harris gathered for a watch party at Howard University on Tuesday night, but never got to hear from her, even after the race was called early Wednesday morning.
Harris stayed quiet until Wednesday afternoon when she delivered an optimistic concession speech at the university.
So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
The vice president encouraged supporters to remain hopeful and said although they may be upset, it is important to accept the results of this election.
With this highly anticipated election coming to a close, there are lots of different reactions from voters circulating around the nation.
KUJH News went to campus to ask KU students how they are feeling about the results.
It was definitely really interesting to watch.
I'm really disappointed. That's really all I can say.
I was pretty disappointed with the results, I think it's a big loss for, Democrats and women, people of color, young people.
Yeah, I was disappointed personally. I voted for Kamala, so I really wasn't expecting him to win the electoral, let alone the popular vote. So it was really surprising to me. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say right now.
As an American, I'm kind of disappointed, frustrated, ashamed. You know, I'm the son of a mother. I have 4 or 5 sisters, and I just feel like this was not the way to go.
A lot of people are putting the entire loss on third-party voters, and I think that's really unfair because Harris lost by a really big margin.
I didn't think it'd be that big of a red wave.
The president election didn't go as I thought it would go, or at least what my opinions were, but I think the people vote for whoever they think is most important by the most powerful person.
We can still come together and move forward as a community and as a group of people.
And I feel like we're just kind of trying to fight each other more than we're trying to work together, and I wish people would be a little bit more united and just try and work together instead of working against each other and then getting upset when things don't go the way that we want them to go.
Tuesday night marked the end of a tight presidential battle between 2 very different candidates. With campaigns that focused on distinct issues, KUJH's Cameron McRory joins us in studio to break down how these issues decide the election.
Thanks, Francesca. This was an election that was definitely heavily determined by the issues, and the 2 campaigns approached them very differently, with President-elect Donald Trump leading with economic security and immigration, and Vice President Kamala Harris, the second ever female presidential candidate, leaning into the issue of abortion access. To better understand these tactics, I spoke with Dr. Ashley Mudeman, a KU professor of political communication, about why Donald Trump's approach won him the vote.
It all came down to what issue voters deemed most important in 2024.
People were making decisions about their presidential vote based on the economy, and that's an issue that, one, the Republican Party was really leaning into, communicated about it. It was central to their campaign messaging.
The political theory of issue ownership tells us that voters perceive each political party as owning certain issues and therefore better equipped to handle them.
So people perceive Republicans to own the issue of the economy, and they remember, perceiving that they were doing better economically under Trump.
So why didn't the issue of abortion secure Kamala Harris the vote?
What people see to be the most important issue that they're facing, it's almost always the economy, and abortion tends to be lower on that list.
And based on Donald Trump's presidential history, she raised concerns about the future of democracy in his next term.
We have elected someone who has felonies and did not admit to losing the election, and that's concerning. That is a major violation of the way that we run our elections.
And even though abortion did not come out as the most important issue to voters nationwide, it still proved important at the state level. Missouri voted on Tuesday to restore access to abortion after the state outlawed nearly all abortions in 2022. We'll have more on that story later on.
Thanks, Cameron. The presidential election isn't the only one impacting KU students and Lawrence residents. Douglas County voters went to the polls Tuesday to decide on several seats in the county commission and state legislature, as well as electing a new district attorney.
In the county commission races, all 4 of the district's Democratic candidates took home the win. Shannon Reed won the District 2 race with nearly 69% of votes. Karen Wiley won District 3 race with around 57% of votes. Jean Dorsey won District 4 with about 58% of votes. And Erica Anderson won District 5 with about 52% of votes.
In state legislature, Democrat Marcy Francisco won the District 2 seat of the state Senate with about 78% of votes. And Democrat Dina Sattler won District 3 with nearly 60% of votes. Democrat Patrick Schmidt won the District 19 seat with about 67% of votes.
Democrat Dakota Loomis was elected as the county's district attorney with about 64% of votes.
Along with the county and presidential races, residents voted on a total of 24 items this election cycle, and lots of voters were eager to participate.
I just think that it's really important that we use our right to vote. I mean, a lot of people fought for us to have the right to vote. I think it's a really important thing. We have to do our duty as a democracy, as citizens of a democracy, to uplift and uphold the beliefs we value. So I think that it's really important that if you have strongly held convictions and beliefs, that you should definitely get out there and vote today, no matter what your party is.
For Potter, this was the second presidential election she voted in, but also the most exciting one for her.
I'm definitely more excited this time around for sure. These options that we have are very important and can decide the fate of our country in the next 4 years. So yeah, I think that it's extremely important and a more interesting election for sure.
Not only was it important for citizens to express their right to vote, but also to make sure that polls were accessible for all Kansans. And the Kansas Election Protection Team efforts did just that.
Make elections as safe and accessible as possible. Our democracy is strongest when every eligible voter is able to vote, and that's kind of our mission. Making sure that things are ADA compliant, making sure there's poll workers, making sure electioneering isn't happening, just making sure that our elections are safe and accessible for all Kansans.
The Elections Protection Team is under the American Civil Liberties Union of Kansas, and its role is to ensure that this election season, Kansans were protected and safe at the polls.
Missouri residents voted to overturn the state's abortion ban and legalize sports betting. See how that will impact the state after the break. KU brings in a lot of students from our neighboring states, including Missouri. On Missouri's ballot this year, residents voted to legalize sports betting. KUJH's Savannah Meyer joins us in studio to tell us the results and how to look for Missouri. Savannah?
That's right, Francesca. The state amendment results came down to the wire Tuesday night, with the outcome passing by 0.2%. Missouri now joins the surrounding 7 states who had sports betting legalized in their states. I got the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Savon Foster for a local input on this amendment change. This amendment opens the doors for more incomes in local casinos and an increase in local infrastructure. Earlier this year, Missouri officials were having conversations about moving major Kansas City sports teams, including the Kansas City Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs, across the border to Kansas. But this new amendment incentivizes the teams to keep their roots planted.
When we were looking at the teams potentially going over to Kansas and being in the Legends area, one of the biggest benefits was the proximity to a major casino that already allows sports gambling in the state that allows virtual sports gambling. So that right there amends a major concern that a lot of folks had. I think it does solidify it, but it's also looking at the developments that will happen within both stadiums.
Giving money to school district, although it was advertised in a way, it is still vague and up in the air as where the money will disperse to.
There have been some questions on which school districts receive which money, how that money is allocated through different school districts. For me personally, I do think one of the biggest concerns is based off of where the casinos would be located, if that plays a part into where those funds will be allocated. So if there is a casino that is headquartered or housed in an already affluent area, that means that essentially that money could go to a more affluent area now.
Building casinos in the Arrowhead and Kaufman area, including in-stadium sports books, will hopefully return income to the area that needs it, including schools. With the Chiefs being undefeated and the Royals making it back to the playoffs this past season, this can incentivize residents to bet in favor of their hometown teams. For more sports content, KUJH's Caleb Kalsich will join us in the studio later to tell us more. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Savannah. Along with the vote on legalizing gambling in Missouri, Missourians also voted yes on Amendment 3, essentially enshrining abortion rights into the state's constitution. Missouri currently has one of the strictest bans on abortions, only allowing them in cases of medical emergencies with no exceptions for rape or incest.
The ruling needed a majority vote to pass, and over 1.5 million Missourians voted in favor of the legalization. Amendment 3 guarantees reproductive health, including birth control, in vitro fertilization, and abortion.
Healthcare providers could spend anywhere from 5 to 15 years in prison for performing an abortion. Importantly, the amendment doesn't undo the state law, meaning abortion right activists will need to take legal action to undo the ban.
For more information on the decision, you can visit Missouri's Secretary of State website at sos.mo.gov. For weeks, voters across the nation rushed to the polls to cast their votes for arguably the most important election of our lifetime, the 2024 presidential election. Still, many individuals were unable to appear in person at the polls. Numerous people, like those with disabilities and out-of-state college students, rely on mail-in ballots to exercise their democracy.
For some, it is a choice where you could be able to vote on election day or vote in person in advance. But there are a number of voters, this is really the only option to vote.
To accommodate the increasing demand of the U.S. Postal Service, some states, including Kansas, Illinois, and Maryland, have grace periods that allow election officials to count mail-in ballots after Election Day legally. The state of Kansas has a 3-day grace period where mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day and received 3 days after can still count.
We had a county commission race in August, and at the end of the night, one person was ahead by 25 votes. Whenever we got done adding the votes that were legally postmarked by that Friday, that person was only ahead by about 6 votes. When we did the provisional ballots, it flipped that race, and the other person won by 3 votes. So if we didn't have that grace period in, those few hundred ballots that were properly postmarked that really had an impact on that race would not have counted.
In April of this year, the Kansas legislature aimed to eliminate this 3-day grace period, potentially limiting mail-in voters' rights to exercise their democracy.
Also, there are states that have a longer window for people to get their ballots in. And so we don't have to have a grace period as short as 3 days. The same individuals who are working to change that law, to take that grace period away, that's the same body of people who have the ability to make that grace period longer, to make sure that more votes are counted.
Upon talking with Bennett, she was adamant that it is up to the American people to elect officials into office that will restore confidence within our current election system. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit excited about these cooling weathers.
I know, it's starting to finally feel like fall.
Right? And I've heard that it's supposed to be rainy this weekend. So what can we expect for this weekend, Sam?
Yes, thank you, Millie. If you take a look off to the west, there are winter storm warnings and watches in eastern Colorado. Luckily, that is just staying in Colorado, not extending into Kansas at all. But the whole system as a whole will move to the northeast, bringing us some rain chances for Saturday in particular. Zooming in here to locally here in Lawrence, very dry air here, causing all the clouds off to the east to dissipate, as well as all the approaching clouds from the west to dissipate as well as they try and move over our area. Temperature-wise right now, we're at 54 degrees out in Topeka, 55 down in Ottawa, 54 here in Lawrence, and a little bit cooler up in Kansas City at 53 degrees. As we head into this evening, we'll be in the 50s around dinner time, then the 40s as the night comes into effect, with the winds being out of the northeast weakening as we head into the later hours this evening. For tonight, we'll reach an overnight low around 40 degrees, but the cloud cover will start to increase as that system moves into our area. Tomorrow, we'll reach a high around 57 with mostly cloudy conditions. And then we could see a couple of raindrops around 11 p.m. to midnight tomorrow, but the greater chance comes into effect Saturday morning. And now, as you put the map into motion, again, these showers will move into our area late tomorrow night, but mostly Saturday morning. And they'll be around midnight when they enter our area and move out around 8 a.m. The good news is they should be out of the area come time for the football game Friday out in Kansas City. Taking another look at this, 57 for a high tomorrow, 60 on Saturday with those showers. Then Sunday, sunshine returns with a high of 61. So again, these fall conditions really are here to stay. If you're heading out to the basketball game tomorrow night against North Carolina, it'll be 55 pregame, 52 tip-off, final buzzer down to 50. Again, could be a chance for a sprinkle, but I do not think that'll be an impact at all. Now moving on to our 7-day forecast. Again, 60 for a high today, 57 tomorrow. Again, with these fall conditions sticking around with highs in the low to mid 60s. A little bit warmer as we start next week, as it'll be near 70 on Tuesday, then Wednesday, right back down again, and then small chance of showers as well toward the middle of next week. Back to you.
Thanks, Sam. We will make sure to keep our umbrellas close by this weekend. And up next on KUJH Sports, Kansas basketball started their season on Monday night against Howard.
And KU women's soccer has started their postseason play. We get an update on how postseason play has gone.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
Welcome back to KUJH Sports. I'm Caleb Cowsage. There's been a lot happening in the world of sports that we just have to share with you. On Tuesday night, the first ever 12-team playoff rankings were released by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Coming into the season, the playoffs were expanded from 4 to 12 teams. Looking at the projected bracket, Oregon would be the number 1 seed, followed by Georgia and Miami. BYU would be the 4 seed and get the first round bye in the playoffs. Ohio State would be the 5 seed and host 12 seed Boise State. 6 seed Texas would host 11 seed Alabama. Penn State and Notre Dame would face off as a 7-10 matchup, and Indiana would travel to Tennessee as an 8-9 matchup. Rankings will be released every Tuesday for the rest of the season until the final rankings on Sunday, December 8th. Earlier in the week, we had an exciting start to the NCAA men's and women's college basketball seasons. Some of the most notable matchups on the men's side included Alabama's 56-point win over UNC Asheville, with leader Mark Sears scoring 20 points. Gonzaga beating Baylor by 38 points in an open night top 10 matchup, and Ohio State upsetting 19th-ranked Texas. Most of the men's matchups were blowouts, but on the women's side, there were some pretty narrow matchups. Number 1 South Carolina served unranked Michigan by only 6 points, and 3rd-ranked USC barely beat 20th-ranked Ole Miss with a score of 68-66. 5th-ranked UCLA escaped 17th-ranked Louisville with a 7-point win. These matchups are just getting started in the season, looking to be fun. Yet we can't forget about KU. The number 1 ranked Jayhawks opened their season with a 30-point victory over Howard. KUJH's Lauren Ritchie tells us more about the regular season matchup.
The number 1 Kansas Jayhawks opened up their season against Howard in the 2nd annual McClendon Classic. Kansas has won 51 straight home openers and was looking to make it number 52. Meanwhile, Howard was looking to kick off their season, but mostly for its guaranteed money they will receive from Kansas. For the Jayhawks, all eyes were on center Hunter Dickinson after sitting out in Kansas' scrimmage and first exhibition game with a back injury. Dickinson played 21 minutes and finished the game with 16 points. After the game, he was just glad to be back out there competing again.
Yeah, no, it felt really good. Obviously, there was some rust from the finishing aspect. Thankfully, I still got a couple more days before the big game. So.
Senior transfer Zeke Mayo stunned the crowd, going 5 for 8 from 3 and leading the team in scoring with 19. Mayo sets a personal shooting percentage goal along with Coach Self, who believes this is what his role will be for the team.
Keep it, close to 40, hopefully. I think that's a good percentage for a regular shooter. I mean, I think I'm coming here to be able to shoot the ball.
He's a good shooter. I think he's reluctant to shoot sometimes, but I thought tonight and the other game, he was more aggressive shooting the ball. I like it.
Up next for Kansas is a top 10 showdown against North Carolina tomorrow night as the Tar Heels will come into the Fieldhouse for its first matchup since the 2022 National Championship game, where the Hawks hoisted the trophy for their 6th national title. For KUJH Sports, I'm Lauren Ritchie.
Thanks, Lauren. Since we have a lot of new players and some key returners this season, it'll for sure be a good one. Speaking of new players, the women's basketball team gained a key player for the 2024-25 season. Elle Evans, a junior transfer from North Dakota State, joined the roster this year, and she is ready to go. She got the start for the Jayhawks last night in the 56-43 win over Lindenwood. KUJH's Caroline sat down with Evans to find out how she'd be feeling about becoming a Jayhawk.
It's that time again where Kansas women's basketball kicks off its anticipated season. What makes this particular season so exciting is the almost completely new roster and starting 5. Elle Evans is one of the new additions to the team, and despite her 6'3" height, she will be a threat in the guard position and behind the arc for the Jayhawks.
I was always, growing up, put in the post, but I realized, I don't want to be a post. I want to be a guard. I want to be on the perimeter, and that's kind of where I flourish, is on the perimeter.
The well-known tradition of basketball is like no other at KU, and something that excites Evans as she helps represent the Jayhawks in the one and only Allen Fieldhouse.
I mean, knowing that that is our home court and that's the environment that we're going to be playing in every single night, when we're here in Allen, I think is just insane, and I can understand why that this is one of the toughest places to play on the road.
The transition from a Bison to a Jayhawk has been nothing short of smooth for Evans.
The transition has been fairly flawless. Obviously, coming in with a lot of newcomers helps a lot, just because you're not the only one that's thrown into everything by yourself. There's a lot of people going through the same exact stuff you are.
Evans looks to fit right in with the team and help lead them to success throughout her first season at KU.
I feel like just taking what's given to me, using my role to the best of my ability. I obviously am here. I want to win games. Just kind of being whatever the team needs me to be.
For KUJH Sports, I'm Kara Lyons.
Thanks, Kara. It'll be exciting to see Evans break out for the rest of her junior season. We've been following KU women's soccer for their season, and it's coming to a close. The Jayhawks are playing in the Big 12 championships and have won all their tournament matches against Arizona State, West Virginia, and Texas Tech. They are heading to the finals on Saturday. Our own Lindsay Ryan was at the game last night and has more about how the match went.
The Kansas women's soccer team was back in CP Casey Stadium for the Big 12 championship semifinals. The 6-seed Jayhawks matched up against the number 1 seed Texas Tech Raiders in their first meeting of the year. Kansas got on the board first with a goal by senior Reina Camus. With the goal from Reina, Kansas finished the first 45 minutes up 1-0 and came out in the second with a lot of momentum. The Jayhawks had 7 corners throughout the match, and in the 49th minute, sophomore Olivia Page was able to get her head on one and put it in the back of the net, giving Kansas the 2-0 lead. Kansas's coach has mentioned several times this season that a 2-0 lead is the hardest lead to have in soccer. When the Raiders cut the lead in half in the 63rd minute, Kansas continued to fight throughout the last 25. And that they did. Kansas will face off against the TCU Horned Frogs in the Big 12 Championship on Saturday at 7 p.m. The team is proud of how far they've come, but they are not done yet. For KUJH Sports, I'm Lindsay Ryan.
Thanks, Lindsay. The championship match is this Saturday in Kansas City against 6th-ranked TCU at 7 p.m. on ESPN+. We'll keep you updated with everything going on in the sports world next Thursday, but that's all we have for you now. Thanks for watching KUJH Sports.
After the break, see how KU Club Bowling is striking, sparing, and celebrating at a local bowling alley.
National champions deserve a clean campus. Don't wait for other Jayhawks to pick up your mess. Keep the University of Kansas clean.
Welcome back. Sam is here to give us a final look at the weather. Sam?
Yes. Thanks, Millie. If you're heading out to the matchup on Saturday against number 17 Iowa State, good news is all the rain should be out by then, leaving us with temperatures at 57 for pregame, around 60 at kickoff, and back down to 57 after sunset comes as we head toward the fourth quarter of that event. Now, when it comes to concerns for other sporting events throughout the next week, I have no real concerns except that there may be some showers up in Ann Arbor, Michigan on Sunday for the women's tennis NCAA sectional for that event. But for everything else, all looks good, especially the State Farm Classic for the men's basketball team taking on Michigan State on Tuesday. Taking one more glance at our forecast, again, these fall conditions are nicely into effect. The temperatures in the low 60s to start next week, climbing up to 70 on Tuesday. Good news is we still have not had that hard freeze yet, and I do not expect that until at least the next few couple of weeks. Should stay with lows in the 30s and 40s, upper 30s and 40s for a good while longer. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Sam. For many first-generation college students, finding a community on campus is important.
The University of Kansas just established its Lambda Eta chapter of Alpha Alpha Alpha, a national merit-based honor society that celebrates first-generation students and their collegiate successes. KUJH's Emily Sutter tells us more about how Tri Alpha is impacting our campus.
In order to support the community of first-generation students at KU, the university is bringing the Lambda Eta chapter of Tri Alpha to its campus in connection with HawkLink, an organization that helps students transition into and through college life. Tri Alpha aims to provide resources and mentorship from staff and alumni to all first-generation Jayhawks.
We serve our first-gen students as much as we can in our office. I think we have over 5,000 first-gen students that are undergrad and graduate. So that's where we spend some of our resources and time, and that's what led us to the Tri Alpha Honor Society.
Tri Alpha also allows first-gen students a chance to connect with other first-generation students that were also Jayhawks. You can be a faculty member, alumni, or student at KU to be a part of this chapter of Tri Alpha.
With Tri Alpha, I was like, oh, this is going to be great, especially for first-gen students, and especially with more people finding out whether or not they're first-gen. It's great to know you have that kind of set community that you can always go to that are like all the students on campus, or anybody that's going to hopefully in the future be the alumni, the faculty, and the staff, which I think is really great.
Delilah is one of 148 inductees for this member class, where members have to have a 3.2 GPA and above. She is excited for the connections and academic recognition after being inducted.
With Tri Alpha, being that all of them are first-gen students and they all come from different ranges of like majors, backgrounds, and how anything with how they've like grown up, or they could always bring something to the table, and it's never, you're not contributing, you're always contributing.
With the bright future of this organization, Tri Alpha will provide a welcoming academic community for all first-generation students. For KUJH News, I'm Emily Sutter.
Thanks, Emily. To be more involved with Tri Alpha and HawkLink on campus, go to hawklink.ku.edu.
A campus club is knocking down pins and rising in popularity. KU's club bowling team spends several days a week at a local bowling alley, honing their skills. Let's take a look.
Inside Royal Crest Lane's Bowling Center, it's go time for the University of Kansas club bowling team.
Bowl every couple of days and just have a ton of fun with it. We love hanging out, love having friends. It's great connections, and it's just an all-around great atmosphere.
And that atmosphere starts every practice with a pump-up speech from team president Ben Weinzel. From there, the team splits into groups to hit the lanes, and you bet it gets competitive. And even without an arena or practice facility, the 30 members on the Kansas Club bowling team have built a home inside Royal Crest Lanes. Another source of pride for the team are custom bowling balls, especially for junior Preston Pacheco.
This is the Rose Bowling Ball. It's like the remake to the Rose Bowling Ball from The Big Lebowski, the bowling movie.
And Pacheco isn't the only one with a unique ball. Kansas Club Bowling also has an official mascot.
His name is Henry, Headless Henry.
So with Henry watching on, Kansas Bowling gets back to work. Strike, spare, celebrate, repeat. Katie Acosta, KUJH.
Well, that's all we have for you this morning.
Check out KUJH on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram for exclusive content, and keep up to date with the latest stories at KUJHnews.com. I'm Francesca Onofrio.
And I'm Millie Favela. KUJH News will be back next Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Have a great day.